Well, amidst all of this, Sky News has learned an option of keeping the ageing Liddell coal-fired power station open for another 3 years past its projected closing date has been canvassed by Federal Energy Minister Angus Taylor. Joining us for exclusive details on the story is Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell. Andrew, so much has been written and debated about this power station. What can you tell us with this latest development?
Well, last year Angus Taylor, the Energy Minister, set up a task force involving federal and state governments to look at the future of Liddell, and it's been put to me that Mr Taylor has been actively canvassing, attempting to have the power station, which provides 10% of New South Wales's power, open for a further 3 years past 2023 to 2026. This would be a very big development in terms of power prices and in terms of avoiding blackouts. But I understand that Mr Taylor hasn't got a lot of support for that option, that AGL and the New South Wales Government are reluctant to agree to that option. He promised his task force would report late last year on the future of Liddell or replacing it. It is yet to report. Mr Taylor's office, Tom, told us on this story that we've consistently said we are looking for like-for-like replacement or extension, and he's declined to comment further on the issue. But I understand on good authority Mr Taylor prefers the extension option and has been working towards it.
And that's the interesting part about this, because you mentioned like for like. AGL has outlined that it would like to, it hasn't put all the detail in, but it wants a sort of gas and renewable hybrid to have the same amount of energy in the grid to avoid those blackouts. But you're saying Angus Taylor is really pushing to extend the life of the power plant.
That's my understanding, and you know, critics of the plan say it could cost as much as $300 million to do so. Mr Taylor previously hasn't ruled out some federal assistance towards doing that. So it will be interesting to see what happens in the year ahead on this issue. You would expect a report soon from that task force. It's well overdue.
Yeah, and the clock ticking on the power plant, not to mention an interesting time to talk about coal and so on. Anyway, we'll see how that one plays out. You also understand, Andrew, the federal government and New South Wales are on the verge of a bilateral climate change agreement. This is to boost the renewable energy industry. What are the details you know here?
I understand the New South Wales and federal government are very close to announcing this bilateral agreement. Mr Taylor has made it clear that he wants to see bilateral agreements with the states. He wants them to contribute to the fight on climate change and to renewable energy. Part of this plan, which would be worth hundreds of millions, as I understand it, would involve building more poles and wires, electricity poles and wires transmission, so that 3 renewable energy zones that New South Wales has nominated in the Central West, North West and South West could be serviced. There's no point building the solar and wind facilities if they can't connect with the grid. So it would involve extending the grid, and that would include interconnecting potentially with South Australia and Victoria. Now, I expect an announcement on this towards the end of the month.
Right, so that would boost renewables, but it would involve the federal government helping out, as you say, getting that energy from those regions, not only to New South Wales but Victoria as well, noting that Victoria is seen as the state with the biggest issue in shortfall right now. So you kind of possibly solve another issue.
Absolutely, and I guess this is the problem. There's said to be a lot of renewable energy kind of plans in the pipeline, not approved, and the facility there for, say, drought-stricken farmers to work with energy companies to get these sort of projects up in areas where there aren't power lines, you could see that push forward. That's the dream of the federal and state governments, I guess. But what Mr Taylor is saying is we need your help. We can't do it alone. They've committed $2.5 billion, the federal government, over $3.5 billion, but they want help from the state governments and the private sector to get moving on this renewable energy front.